Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Greg Williams, and I will be your presenter and your host for today's webinar. Thank you very much. We appreciate you spending your valuable time to be here. So today we'll talk about UMBC's Instructional Systems Development Program, and I will be your presenter for this. So a couple of few housekeeping issues. We respect your time, so we'll certainly end no later than 1 p.m. Eastern Time. There will be time at the end for discussions and questions. If you have a question during the webinar, feel free to chat the question in using the chat function or the question function. Both work fairly well. It's been my experience if there's any audio problems, usually the best thing to do is simply boot up your computer again, turn it off, and then turn it on. I will remain after 1 o'clock. So if people want to talk to me after the webinar, I am available to do that. So let's proceed. So the UMBC program in ISD was actually the first master's program at UMBC nearly 50 years ago. And the program was designed actually for adult students way back when, before it was fashionable. We like to feature hands-on practical exercises and requirements for the program. We are a public research university, but this program is an applied professional program. Our approach essentially is very career-oriented. We've done a number of interviews with our students and alumni and employers, and everyone really favors the program to address career needs that students have. And students constantly tell us that they're in this program for career-related reasons. They want to get a job, they want to get a better job, they want to get a more meaningful job. It's all about jobs and career issues. Our students are about 95% plus, maybe even like 98% working adults. So someone asked me prior to the program, you know, I'm an adult, I'm working, I've got kids, I'm taking care of older parents, will I fit in? Well, actually, that profile kind of looks like the profile that we have of our students in the program. So yes, you fit in very well. Our students are doing a number of things besides going to school. The model that we follow is basically the output for students is project oriented. So students work on real life projects with real clients, and we think that is a good way to approach this. So you might be wondering, there's other ISD programs out there. Why should I be interested in instructional systems development at UMBC? Well, we think that the reputation of our program precedes itself. If not the first program in the country nearly 40 years ago, we were certainly one of the first. So I think our reputation as an institution has been rising over the last decade or so. Our approach is hands-on applied, so students are working on real-life projects with real-life clients and are developing a work sample of a portfolio as they go along. The whole program was designed for people who are working and then going to school. So students can apply for admission in any semester, they can graduate in any semester, and again, the whole program is geared on students fitting in as working adults, and our faculty are very used to working with people that are dealing with work issues and a number of other personal items. So we're well aware of that. The projects, the outcomes that students work on during the program, they are project-based. What I mean by that is, you know, we don't write papers, we don't necessarily have tests. As such, students work on real-life projects and develop a portfolio. So the portfolio, we used to have a requirement like most traditional master's programs. And essentially, the master's program requirement, besides the coursework, was the comprehensive exam. And now we actually feature a portfolio, which I think is far more practical than a comprehensive exam because you can use that in your work beyond UMBC. We do have a mentoring program. It is a volunteer program. Students do not have to enroll in the mentoring program, but after talking to students in a variety of scenarios over the years, I realized that there were issues that would come up in students' lives. You know, they're working professionals and they had career-related issues or challenges. And, you know, sometimes everything that we learn in life is not contained in a classroom. Most of what we learn is informal, so we created a mentoring program to deal with that. Last but not least, our faculty are practitioners. They are people who are working in the field and essentially are people that are a great value to us as a program because they have great expertise in the field and then share it with our students. A number of our faculty are also graduates of the program, so we think that's an advantage because they know how the program fits together. So we offer a lot of choice in our program. It's not a program where everybody has exactly the same experience because you can choose electives, but we try to follow adult learning principles, which means that you have particular needs as a learner, and we try to meet those needs. So we realize that certain people need certain things that others might not. So we try to tailor the program where possible in the coursework and electives and so forth to meet your individual needs. Admission to the program. Admission to the program is through the graduate school. What the graduate school likes to have is they want to see an applicant with a solid undergraduate grade point average of around 3.0 or a B average. That is the biggest factor that they look at for admission. Now, it's very common in our program that some students tell me, you know, I went to undergraduate school 10, 15, 20 or more years ago, and maybe I wasn't a super serious student then, and we realize that that happens. So we try, instead of trying to find ways to dismiss people and reject them, we try to find ways to work with them. So in some cases, if somebody has less than a B average, we encourage them to apply for the certificate program. And in the certificate program, it has slightly lower admission standards. And we can get you into the certificate program, and then you can take a few courses and establish an academic track record. If you get A's and B's, then I can take your case to the dean of the graduate school and make a case for, hey, this student has done well, they've gotten A's and B's, and I recommend them for admission into the master's program. And we've been pretty successful in doing that. So that's how admission works. Now, our program is based on the Association for the Talent Development Competency Model. So everything that we do in terms of our coursework maps out to a number of these competencies, particularly the instructional design one. Of course, we deal with others such as training delivery and learning technologies and management and evaluation. There are a number of others, but let's take a brief look. So this is all on ATD's website. So after the webinar, if you want to find more information about the ATD competency model, you can go ahead and do that at their website. But you can see under instructional design, this is how we map our competencies out. And this is kind of a guiding post for the framework of our program. You can see it talks about needs assessment, talks about applying adult learning theory, talks about designing a curriculum, talks about analyzing and evaluating. So like I said, that's what our program is based on, this model. It's a model that's been proven over the years, and we think it's a solid one for us. So the master's program. The master's program essentially is 12 courses. It has 7 required courses and 5 electives. So somebody has a lot of leeway in terms of the individual courses that they choose. Unlike some programs where it's a lockstep, where they prescribe every single course for you. So students have a great deal of choice and flexibility in terms of choosing their electives. If they want to take a course that might be at a different school. We're open for them doing that and transferring that course in. That is not unusual if they want to work on an independent study that addresses a particular need and with a project that they might be working on at work. We're also flexible enough to do that. So that's essentially the master's program. We also have graduate certificate programs. Um, the word certificate is a funny word in education and higher education. It's possible to, attend a seminar at a ballroom in a Holiday Inn where you learn how to deal with difficult people and you listen to someone who's entertaining and essentially knows how to facilitate and present very well. And then you can exit that ballroom that day from the Holiday Inn with a certificate. Now, your performance standard might be non-existent because you didn't have to do anything. You just had to sit there, but you get a certificate. Our certificate programs essentially are of the same rigor as the master's. For example, I could be in the certificate program, and my colleague Renee could be in the master's program. So essentially, the only thing that would be different if we're sitting in the same course, intro to instructional systems development, we have the same instructor, we have the same requirements, we have the same textbook, we have the same projects, etc. The only thing that's different is that one of us has claimed the master's as our ultimate educational goal, and the other one has claimed the certificate. So we offer several certificates. Here they are, the Instructional Systems Development Certificate, which is our most popular certificate. This certificate is also 4 of the 7 required courses for the master's. We also have, so someone is interested in instructional design, primarily, this is probably the certificate for them. Instructional technology is a hands-on computer related course where people actually learn software to create instructional tools that can be used in training and learning. We also have a 3rd certificate in distance education. Distance education is more of a management kind of related certificate where it's a 30,000-foot view of the field of e-learning and distance education, not so much a hands-on for that particular program. So the good thing, one of the good things about our certificates is each of these certificates can be applied to the master's. So for example, if somebody takes the 4 courses and gets the Instructional Systems Development certificate, they are 4/12 of their way to the master's. So they'll only need 8 more courses to get their master's in this case. So we think that's a fairly attractive situation because we have a number of people who are not sure if the certificate is for them, or they don't have enough time, or maybe money is an issue and they're kind of taking one course at a time. I'm seeing someone who says there's feedback on the line. I would suggest that you log out and log back in, Amanda. Usually that takes care of about 99% of the audio problems that I've dealt with over the years in webinars. So hopefully that works for you. Okay, so like I mentioned before, our program is very much career-oriented, and our faculty gear their courses with that in mind. So people are working on real projects with real clients and are developing a portfolio. It's very much an environment where we have people that are learning from not only our faculty, but from each other. We have people from a variety of different types of industries, whether it's government, whether it's Fortune 500 companies, whether they're trade associations, small business, or consultants. We tend to have all of those people represented here in our program, and we think that makes for a fertile learning environment to have so many different people from a variety of organizations. I see Fred has chatted in here with projects for real clients. Can you use projects at your own company? You can use projects at your own company. People actually indeed just do that very much, Fred. So that is one way to do it. So let me move on here. Good question, Fred. Thanks for. So I think some of the hallmarks of our program is really student choice and flexibility because when students actually do internships, for example, we don't prescribe where they do their internship and where they do field work. We give them options. They can make choices or they can propose to us saying, hey, I have worked with this client for a long time on my own as a volunteer. I would like to see if it's possible if I can do them for the internship. So we actually try to find ways to make that happen. And I am the director of the fieldwork and internship placements, so I'm more than happy to accommodate you. But we feel that flexibility and program choice are some of our hallmarks. So here's one of my favorite cartoons, Calvin. Uh, it's not being published anymore, so if you take a minute to read there, you might be amused. I think I was, so take a minute to read that. So, Calvin, he is not big on testing. Well, in reality, we're not big on testing either. And in fact, we don't give tests here. You work on projects because some of you might recognize my colleague here, Dr. Thiagi. Dr. Thiagi is a very well-known person in the field of instructional design and training, highly respected man. Has been doing this for a long time. And I remember we were talking about assessment and evaluation one day, and he asked me, Greg, do you take tests at work? And I kind of thought about that for a minute, and I scratched my head, and I said, well, no, I don't believe I've ever taken a test at work. They evaluate me doing other things. And his response was precisely. So why do we make people take tests as a form of evaluation in a graduate program? So we take Dr. Thiagi's advice, and we actually do not provide any tests. So most of our courses are project-based learning, and by that I mean we give you projects that you can actually use in terms of your assignments. They are pretty flexible, that we give you a pretty big framework in which to choose from, and that way that your projects, you're doing something meaningful. And I think according to the adult learning principles, we know that meaningful learning is much better than learning that's kind of crammed down your throat and you don't really care about. So we do provide all our courses with some project-based learning. Now, with field experiences, we do have a couple of field experiences for the program. There's an internship and there's a final project. So some people always ask me, well, I work. How do I do an internship? How do I do a field experience if I'm actually working? Well, there's a number of different ways to handle that. One option we give students is the traditional internship, where they work maybe 10 hours a week for 15 weeks, a semester long, for an organization, and they're performing work as a staff instructional designer, a staff trainer, a staff e-learning developer. That's one way to do it. The two other ways, which are the most popular, essentially are, one way is to approach it almost like a consulting project, where you would sit down with your client and basically discuss the deliverables of the project and come to an agreement on those. Then where you actually do the work may be irrelevant. You could do it at home, you could do it at a library or any place. You don't necessarily have to do it at that organization. That's the second way. The third way is you could use your own employer as the place where you actually do your internship. The big caveat here is that it must be a new project. It can't be business as usual. It can't be your same old job. It has to be a new project that you're working on. So those are the three ways that you can do it. Okay? Let's move on. So the portfolio. The portfolio is something that we started about 4 or 5 years ago. We kind of looked at our comprehensive exam, and we wondered if it was actually meeting a need or if it was just a traditional requirement. And we essentially decided that the portfolio would be much more meaningful in terms of um, making sure that students had something practical after they graduated. So essentially, instead of taking an exam now, which our comprehensive exam was, we have a portfolio of work samples. And in every course that you take, there are probably one, two, three, or even more work samples that you can add to your portfolio. And we think that's very valuable when you actually leave the program. Mentoring. I mentioned mentoring earlier, and let me tell you just a little bit more about it. We do have a mentoring program that we started about a year ago. It's for people in the master's program right now. It's voluntary. You don't have to take part. But essentially, we think it's valuable because it provides students with a seasoned mentor, a seasoned professional in the field that they can talk to and have a relationship with and talk about career related issues or things that they're thinking about, challenges they may be experiencing in their career. This came about because I had a number of conversations with students over the years and essentially um, realized that there were legitimate issues that didn't relate to content in a class, but was still a legitimate issue or challenges that couldn't necessarily be solved by information in a class. So we created the mentoring program to deal with that, and we think it is being successful with students. So our faculty are practitioners in the field. Um, Out of 14 faculty members, 12 of them are practitioners in the field. Besides myself, there is one other full-time faculty. I also do a fair amount of consulting, so I stay fresh and up to date in the field through consulting. But most of our faculty, by far, are working professionals in the field. So, they are not people that live in the ivory tower and don't know what's happening outside of it. They are people who deal with these issues head first in the workplace and are very familiar with them. And, we're very happy to have them. They work at some, well-known organizations such as, Booz Allen, IBM, uh, some federal agencies, Fortune 500 companies. So we think we have a great faculty. Student services. And so your experience isn't complete just in the classroom. You will obviously have to um, get things done administratively, like getting advising and registering for classes and so forth. And we think that we do a good job with providing excellent student services. I remember a few years back, there was a couple, husband and wife, that were graduating. One was graduating from the instructional design program, and one was graduating from a technology related program at UMBC. I'm not going to name the program. And the wife said to me, "Gee, Dr. Williams, I'm so happy that I'm graduating, and I'm really look forward to starting a new career. And I really want to talk to you about what a great job that Ginny did. Ginny at the time was our program coordinator, and she talked about how Ginny helped her with a lot of administrative issues and bureaucracies because we are a state university, so states obviously have bureaucracies." And she talked about how Ginny was a big help to her. And then her husband, who graduated from another UMBC major, not ours, said, "What? What are you talking about? We just had to take care of our own. Nobody helped us with that stuff." So we think that our services are really good here, and we do a good job of um, taking care of your issues because we know that at times we might not be the easiest organization to navigate in the world because we are part of the state of Maryland government. So, but we think we do a great job in providing good services to our students. All right, so cost is always a factor. So let's look real quickly. Tuition and fees for a Maryland resident is about $2,000 a class. Tuition and fees for a non-resident is about $3,300. So there's 12 courses, and you can do the math there and get the total program cost. Our books are very affordable. It's roughly about $100 per course, roughly a little over $1,000 for the program. We have a new thing called regional tuition policy. Regional tuition policy enables people who are not citizens of the state of Maryland to get in-state tuition. So if somebody lives in the District of Columbia in Delaware, they get the in-state Maryland tuition. If somebody lives in Northern Virginia, in those counties that are outlined there, in those cities, and basically it's pretty much most of Northern Virginia, which is of course a highly populated region in our area. And then Pennsylvania, if you're in York and Lancaster County, you get the in-state Maryland tuition. So we're excited about that because we think that provides some relief from out-of-state tuition that's more. So that's what our regional tuition looks like. Again, we're very career oriented. We want to make sure that people get jobs, and I think people do get jobs. Baltimore and Washington are very good areas for instructional design and e-learning development. The U.S. Labor Department has identified instructional design as a bright job outlook, which means they've targeted it for growth higher than the average job over the next 10 years. So we think that is a good thing. So career paths. People always want to know, well, what do career paths look like? Well, the first line shows, like, if you come in as an instructional designer, what typically happens. Well, normally people can get more experience in over the years and become either a project manager or they can become a senior instructional designer. If they hit those levels of a senior instructional designer or a project manager, typically something that could happen is they could be a training manager and then perhaps later a director of training. That's a fairly typical career path. Where do you go from director of training? Well, some organizations have, larger organizations have a job called a chief learning officer, and that would probably be, I don't want to say an ultimate career path, but it's probably the top type of learning job in most organizations. So that's what a typical career path would look like. Salaries, these salaries essentially in Washington, the range is about 68,000 to 82,000. In Baltimore, a little bit lower than that, 62,000 to 75,000, with the national average being, of course, the stats from last year, about 64,000. So a little bit of career research to show, what people make in the field. So we're just about going to be wrapping it up here, and let's move on. So again, why UMBC? Well, we think our reputation is excellent. We were, as far as we know, the first instructional design program in the nation. We think our applied hands-on approach provides a lot of benefits for working adults. The program was geared for working adults, so all our processes and all our policies are geared towards a working adult situation. Our classes are geared for projects, so the output that you create is project-based, and basically the projects can fit into your work samples, can fit into your portfolio, which you can do to get new jobs, get promotions, get new clients if you're doing consulting. The mentor program, we don't think there's a lot of programs out there that have mentorships. There are some, but there's not a lot, so we think that's an advantage. And then last but not least, our faculty, our practitioners, and we think that provides a big benefit for our students. So that's why we think UMBC. So that's the end of the official presentation. Now comes the time for questions, discussion. Are there questions that I can answer? I will unmute you. So if you want to talk, Renee, can you help me unmute the group? Is the mentoring program available for certificate students? Not at this present time. And the reason it's not is we don't have enough mentors for both the master's and the certificate at this moment. I see another question coming in here. If I were to graduate from the program for the master's, could I be a part-time adjunct professor, or would I have to earn a doctorate? Well, essentially, most colleges and universities want you to have a doctorate. Community colleges, not so much. That's kind of variable. I would say with a master's, you could be an adjunct. A number of our faculty have a master's. Some have doctorate, so it depends upon the institution. Are there other questions? You can chat in, or even want to talk in person. That's fine. Are those instructional design salaries that I showed? Yes, they are. A lot of times, if you look at an e-learning developer salary, it's probably higher because they bring in the technical skills that everybody does not have. Yes, we can make the webinar recording available to you if you missed it, Heather.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What other questions do you have, folks? So we had questions about the mentoring program, instructional design salaries, projects at clients. What else can we tell you about? Any other questions, folks? I'm not hearing anything at the moment.
I don't think I have any other questions. It was pretty, for what I did catch, it was pretty good.
Okay, well, good. Well, folks, if there are no questions, I'm going to end it here. I know you're busy folks, and you probably have lunch to eat and meetings to go to and projects to work on. So if you have any questions, you can contact me. I'm Dr. Greg Williams. I'm the director of the program. There's my email and my direct phone. I answer my phone myself, so you get to talk to me. And thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate you spending your valuable time with us this afternoon. I'll hang out online in case anybody has other questions.